What if your dreams weren't just a fantasy? What if they were a real, tangible place? A private reality you could not only explore but actually communicate from. For all of human history, dreams have been one of our greatest mysteries. We've seen them as messages from the divine, symbols from our subconscious, or just random static from our sleeping brain. But the one thing they've always been is isolated. A dream was a world of one, a story no one else could enter and that the dreamer themselves might barely remember. But that wall is starting to crumble. For the first time, scientists are claiming they've broken through, having actual conversations with people inside their own lucid dreams. The evidence they're bringing back could forever change how we see consciousness, the mind, and the very nature of reality itself. To get just how big a deal this is, you have to understand the old problem of dream research. For as long as we've tried to study dreams, we've been locked out. Imagine trying to figure out what's in a sealed room. The door is locked, the windows are blacked out, and your only clue is a dazed person who stumbles out in the morning and tries to describe what they vaguely remember seeing inside. For decades, the best we had were theories. Thinkers like Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung argued that dreams were bursting with meaning, a kind of symbolic language from our unconscious. Freud saw them as our deepest desires, while Jung saw them as the mind's attempt to find balance. These ideas were powerful, but they had a huge flaw: you couldn't prove them. The entire field was built on memory, what someone recalled after waking up. And memory is a terrible narrator. Dreams are slippery. The details can vanish within minutes of waking. It's estimated we forget up to 95% of them. The bits we do hang on to are often fragmented, bizarre, and get warped the moment we try to put them into words. This was a massive roadblock for science. How can you objectively study an experience when your only data is a subjective, fading memory? It was the ultimate locked room mystery. Science could guess what was inside, but it couldn't get a clear message out. The challenge was finding a way to get that message while someone was still dreaming. But what if you could get a message out? What if you could talk to someone while they were dreaming? It's the kind of thing you see in movies like Inception, and for good reason. The idea of a real-time dialogue with a sleeping person has always felt like pure science fiction. It would be a fundamental leap at exploring the mind's inner world. And now science is starting to catch up with science fiction. The key that finally unlocked the door was lucid dreaming. A lucid dream is when the dreamer becomes aware they're dreaming. For most, it's a fleeting moment of clarity, but for others, it's a state where they can consciously observe and even control the dream. Researchers realized this was the bridge they needed. If a dreamer is aware and conscious inside the dream, could they be taught to send a signal to the outside world? That question led to one of the most groundbreaking experiments in neuroscience. It was the first knock on the door of that locked room, and to everyone's shock, someone was about to answer. This breakthrough wasn't from a single lab, but a coordinated international effort. Researchers in the US, France, Germany, and the Netherlands all ran experiments to see if two-way communication was possible. They gathered a group of experienced lucid dreamers and people with narcolepsy, a condition that often triggers lucid dreams. The method was brilliantly simple. First, they had to know when someone was dreaming. For that, they used an EEG or electroencephalogram, which measures the brain's electrical activity. Think of it as a sensitive microphone listening for the specific brainwave patterns of REM sleep, the stage where most vivid dreaming happens. Once the EEG showed someone was in a lucid dream, the real challenge began. You can't just talk in a dream and be heard in the real world, so they created a new language based on physical movements the dreamer could control. The most common signal was a prearranged pattern of eye movements. A few flicks left, right could mean yes or signal the answer to a question. In other cases, they used tiny twitches of facial muscles. This was the secret code they hoped would cross the barrier between sleep and waking life. With everything in place, the experiment started. Researchers would watch the brainwaves, and as soon as they saw the signs of a lucid dream, they'd send a question. They tried different ways of sending it, speaking aloud, flashing lights, or even tapping on the participant's hand. The questions were simple, designed to test understanding without being too complicated. In one of the most incredible moments from the study, a researcher asked a sleeping participant a simple math problem: what is 8 minus 6? The question was sent. In the lab, there was silence. The team watched the sensors, waiting for a response that had until that moment been purely theoretical. They'd tossed a message in a bottle into the ocean of a dream. All they could do was wait and see if one came back. Then it happened. The sensors tracking the dreamer's eyes picked up a clear, deliberate pattern. Left-right. Then left-right again. 2 distinct sets of movements. The answer was 2. And it was correct. For the first time, a real-time conversation had been successfully established with someone who was verifiably asleep and dreaming. Similar successes popped up across the international labs. Dreamers answered yes or no questions and correctly identified different signals. One participant said the researcher's voice came through their dream like a movie narrator. Another heard Morse code beeps as the sound on their dream radio. This was confirmation that the outside world was being woven directly into the fabric of the dream itself. Now, it's important to be clear, the connection isn't a crystal clear phone line, it's fragile. In the landmark international study, participants successfully answered questions in about 18% of the trials. It's like the first crackly radio transmission across the ocean. It wasn't perfect, but it proved it could be done. The door isn't locked anymore. It's been pushed open a crack. So, why does this matter? Being able to talk to someone in a dream changes almost everything. This is backed up by other brain imaging tech. For instance, fMRI studies show that when a lucid dreamer is told to dream about clenching their fist, the part of their brain from movement, the sensorimotor cortex, lights up almost exactly as it does when they're awake and actually clenching their fist. Even more, recent research from 2025 has identified unique brainwave patterns, specifically involving beta and gamma waves, that mark lucid dreaming as its own distinct state of consciousness, separate from both regular REM sleep and being awake. The potential here is staggering. Imagine a therapist talking a patient through a nightmare in real time, guiding them to reduce its power. This could revolutionize treatments for PTSD and anxiety, letting people confront trauma in a controlled, guided space. And it's not just for therapy. What about learning? An athlete or a musician could practice in a lucid dream, firing the same neural pathways they use when awake, but without physical fatigue. Scientists and artists could use the hyperassociative state of dreaming to work through tough problems or find new ideas, something many have claimed to do by accident for centuries. We're looking at a future where the dream state isn't just passive, but an active world for growth, healing, and discovery. This is just the beginning. The original studies used complex, lab-based equipment, but researchers are already working on simpler tech for at-home use. There are projects focused on single-sensor EEGs and smartphone apps that use sound cues to help trigger lucid dreams. A startup named REM Space even claims it has enabled communication between two different dreamers, passing a message from one sleeping person to another through a server. While these claims are still new, they point to a future where dream interaction could be common. This research forces us to ask some deep questions. If you can have a verifiable conversation with someone who's dreaming, and their brain treats dreamed actions as real, what does that say about consciousness itself? That firm line we've always drawn between the real waking world and the imaginary dream world is starting to get blurry. We are on the edge of a new era of exploration, not of outer space, but of inner space. The next great frontier might just be the one we visit every night when we close our eyes. Science has officially received a message from the other side of sleep. By establishing two-way communication with lucid dreamers, researchers have proven that dreams aren't just nightly movies we watch, but an interactive state of being. The barrier between our waking and sleeping worlds is beginning to dissolve, opening up possibilities that were once pure science fiction. The biggest discoveries may still be ahead of us, waiting inside our own minds. It leaves us with one final question. If you could send a message to someone inside their dream, what would you ask? If you want to explore more mysteries of the mind, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. And let us know your answer to that question in the comments below.